So Lisa, today's episode is all about resources and how business owners can upskill and feel inspired by some of the things that we're going to talk about today.
I know. I feel like I've been catapulted into a classroom. We're surrounded by books, magazines, bits of Lego, all of which we're going to talk you through as we go through this episode.
Yeah, there's lots of fun stuff today. I feel like this is going to be a good one. So some of the things, if we put them into categories, we've got books, we've got a list of podcasts, we're going to talk about communities as well, ones that we're part of, ones that we know of, different events, and also we're going to talk about this Lego that's down here as well. We've got some Lego in the studio today.
This is a surprise to me, so I'm going to sit back and be inspired.
we like to bring things in that are little props that can, like you had your shiny object one last time, didn't you? So it's about having fun different props that we can bring in and talk to our audience about.
So should we start with books?
Yeah.
So I absolutely love business books. In fact, it's the only genre of books that I actually read.
Are you a reader or an audio book kind
definitely
of person?
a reader. Because I'm a tactile person, so I like to have the physical book in my hands.
Yeah.
So I've got loads, and actually probably more than I should have. I have started now, probably over the last 12 months, to buy all of my reading materials pre-loved.
Oh, love that. Where do you go for that?
Well, mostly the Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon, but where it says new and used, so
absolutely.
You go for used.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. I've never
because
tried that
if it's
before.
a business book, most people buy it to be inspired and then they put it down or put it on a shelf. So most of my books, unless they're brand new, are pre-loved, or believe it or not, they come from my local library. And I did actually get my library to buy in a copy of a book that they didn't have that I'd been recommended, which I thought was a fantastic service.
That is great.
So my books, if they're new and only available new, I buy them new. If they're available pre-loved, then that's the route that I go down. So we've got a big stack of books here, which is probably only a sample of our entire collection. So do you want to start by picking out a couple which particularly inspired you?
Yeah, I feel like each one I could talk for a few minutes about each one, but I'll try and narrow that down. The first one is down here at the bottom. This is Adam Peaty's. It's the Gladiator Mindset, and it's like 10. I don't know without looking at the front cover, but it's like 10 ways to create your gladiator mindset. And, you know, if anybody doesn't know much about Adam Peaty, he's actually from Uttoxeter, which is where I went to school. So
Staffordshire.
He's younger. Yeah, Uttoxeter in Staffordshire. So yeah, he's I don't know, he might be like 10 years younger or something like this. But, you know, to go from being a local lad to being an Olympic, probably multiple Olympic medalist.
And a pretty good dancer as well. He was on Strictly.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I thought he was going to say like he does something on his Insta, like,
and he's
funny dancers.
He's quite a force to be reckoned with, isn't he?
And I think this is the thing. It's so transferable when you think somebody who's training for Olympics. You know, the way that he swims, to be able to have that mindset is very transferable to being a business owner. Being very dogged about what your goal is and knowing that those tweaks, those shifts are going to make a difference to getting your goal. So when I read that, I felt really inspired. And obviously as a local lad as well, I wanted to be able to bring this in and showcase that. LSP method is all about Lego, but we'll come back to that one later. This one is Scale at Speed. This is one I'm reading right now. And I'm like you, I like a tactile book because for me, it's about underlining things and turning down the corners so I can go back to that book, look at those pages.
Oh, you're not a turner corner downer, are you? Oh, God, that's an absolute crime. So your books would never sit on like pre-loved,
I can't sell mine because people would be like, this is really annoying. It's all highlighted yellow and underlined. Yeah, I find it really fascinating. I'm very like, for me, when I write things, it goes in my brain. So if I'm underlining things or, you know, like highlighting stuff, it's almost like an extra layer of it sinking in.
I do most of my reading, well, pretty much all of my reading before I go to sleep.
Oh, do you?
And
How do you do that thing though when you're like in bed and you're like, well, I just
I sit up like that.
Oh,
but also, it's
okay.
it's not a great thing because then it gets my mind racing. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a really good idea. So
you have to keep pen and paper.
I've got a pen and paper. I've got a little notepad,
like when you're in a hotel and you get the pen and paper on the side,
and it says a space for my head before going to bed or something like that.
Nice.
So it's I know, pen and paper at the ready.
Yeah.
And it really works. You know, this whole concept of if you wake up and you've got an idea in your head, or if you wake up and you think, oh, must add milk to the shopping list, you need to write it down and then you can go back to sleep knowing that you've captured it somewhere.
And there's some statistics about reading things before bed makes it more likely to settle in your brain. And also, I guess there's that filter that before you go to sleep, you've read a book, it's sparked something in your brain that thinks this is a great idea for my business. You've slept on it, you wake up and you think, that's not as good an idea.
Get it in the ideas jar.
Yeah, the shiny object jar. Yeah, so Scale at Speed is, I'm only, I don't know, a tenth of the way through this at the moment, but this guy Felix Velarde I'm finding it fascinating. And you know what, like one of our most recent podcast episodes was all about storytelling. This is on a similar vein. However, it's about building what the bigger picture is. So looking at that 3-year vision, which I'm a big fan of, looking at that 3-year vision and then looking at what those baby steps are throughout that, and then thinking, okay, the first thing that we need to do is this goal, not looking too far ahead. And he has this story where they go up a mountain at the very beginning. He goes with a guide up a mountain. He's not prepared for this big walk. And what the guide does is he'll say, we're just going to walk for an hour and then we're going to stop and have a drink and we're going to look at that view, or there's some amazing birds at this view that we're going to listen to. So he's like giving him incremental goals. And then what Felix says is like, this is how it can work in your business, is that you can use this with your team and work out what's the big vision and then what are these small incremental goals. And so this is what I'm reading at the moment, this Scale at Speed, and I'm really enjoying it. There's a couple in here that I've bought that are ready to read. So like Make Money While You Sleep. This is one that's on my to read list. Edward de Bono. If anybody has read any Edward de Bono books, this I read. I looked inside last night. I read this in 2002, 22 years ago.
Wow.
And it's called Serious Creativity. And it's all about, loads of different things, but it's about how to ignite that creativity in your brain. And one of the things that Edward talks about is a thing called PO, and it's provocation. So if you've got a problem in your business, you're thinking, how am I going to do this thing? He'll say, like, we're going to take a random object, like, I don't know, bottle of water, something like this. And then we're going to think, right, how can a bottle of water solve that problem? And so it's almost like taking something really random and bringing that into the equation to help you problem solve in a very different creative way. It's brilliant. I really recommend reading that. And then things like Talk Like Ted is amazing for anybody who's wanting to do like speaking gigs or wanting to get, do a TED Talk at some point. Think and Grow Rich is a classic. Obviously, listen to that as a podcast, but I've now bought it so that I can, listen to it as an Audible, but now bought it so that I can do the turny downy pagery thing as well and start highlight
gloss
it.
over that.
So yeah, that's like a whistle stop tour of a few books of what I just feel really inspired by.
Brilliant.
Oh, and another one before I finish is a book that I recommend to most of my clients. Is not even a marketing book. It's called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. I'm a massive fan of Mike Michalowicz's books. And I just think he's an absolute business genius.
Yeah.
It was the first one of his series that I read. He's got things like Pumpkin Patch or Fix This Next. And the Profit First is the way that when money comes into your business, it's how you divide that up. So it's almost like a business finance book.
Yeah.
But how you divide that up and how you then spend that, how you put your tax aside, how you put VAT aside, wages, operating expenses and profit. For us, that's just been a game changer on how we do business. And, we even, as a company, we even talk to our team about how much we make from businesses and how that gets divided up so that they see how much something can be worth and how much goes into the wages pot. So things like profit first. I mean, books in general can just blow our minds with how they can take us forward as businesses.
I've read Profit First as well, actually, and it was recommended to me. And I thought, this is going to be really dry
and boring.
And don't get me wrong, it is quite heavy.
It's a hard topic.
But I tell you what I liked about that book is that he introduces like a bit of a regular check-in stages. So he says, at this point, if you're going to implement one thing, implement this. Put the book down and come back to it later.
Go sort out your bank accounts and put them into pots.
And I like that because I feel overwhelmed by the whole entirety of a big thing. Yeah. But breaking it down into little stages, I think, yes, I can do this. So the one thing that I have implemented in my business on the back of that book is the 1%. So for every invoice that I get paid into my business, I siphon off 1%. Even if it's just £2, it's a mindset thing
absolutely.
Into a separate pot.
Yep.
And essentially that is like my Christmas bonus. So I stopped that book because I'm a good student. I did exactly as I was told when he said, if you do nothing else, implement the 1% and come back to this book later. Yeah. So I've got that book to go back to.
Oh, I just love it.
Yeah.
You'll read it more than once. Yeah. And you'll be recommending it to loads of people.
So it is a really great book. Yeah. So for me, I've only bought a few because I've got a few. I've got lots at home, but these were just a few. So I've got one here called Built to Sell. And this was recommended to me actually by Louise Brogan, who does also have a podcast called LinkedIn with Louise. So she specialises in LinkedIn for business. So she recommended this book to me. And the reason I love this book is because it talks about how to get your business ready to sell. Now,
Oh, okay. So it's not built to sell as in helping you to sell your products. It's building your business to sell it.
Correct.
Like it.
And obviously, I would say to you, even if that's not your intention, read this book because this helps you detach yourself as the person from the business. And this puts you into the position of, okay, this business, if it is a business, should not be centered all around me. So if I stepped away from this business, it could continue to grow, to thrive, to service more customers. And my key outtake from this, and it's something that I still question in my head, is that he talks about the difference between customers and clients. So we tend to think if I'm a product-based business, I have customers. If I'm a service-based business, I have clients. And his interpretation of that is that client implies a person-to-person relationship. And actually, if this is business, it should be customers. So we should all be talking about our customers, not our customers or clients. And I get it 100%. It feels
so
quite...
he's saying drop the client words.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just everybody is a customer.
Everyone is a customer because it's business to business. And that doesn't mean that he's not advocating people buy from people. But what he's saying is if you are a business and you want to grow your... Nobody talks about growing their client base. They talk about growing their customer base.
So is it that... the word customer sounds more friendly, so it's like even if you're B2B, they are still a human, so they're still a customer.
It's the opposite. So most service businesses talk about clients because it's me, Lisa Pickles, doing business with you, Vic Prince. But actually, until you remove yourself, you're always going to talk in that language. So it's find me the leads, doing business with Touchpoints Marketing. So Touchpoints Marketing is a customer of Find Me the Leads. Okay.
And that also makes me think like a customer can be singular or plural. Yeah. As in Touchpoints as a customer. So there's multiple people at Touchpoints. However, a client makes it sound singular only.
And it's like when you move from being a one person business to, more people, you shouldn't be in a position where your customers call and they want to speak to you and you only, because only you are you're the only person that can deal with their inquiry. It's business to business.
This is fascinating. I think I want to borrow this one.
You can
Am
borrow
I allowed to turn down the pages?
No, you are not.
I might have to take pictures on my phone.
And if you do, that's the end of our relationship. You have been warned. So I just another book that I want to talk about that will lead us on to another resource, which is that of communities, is this one. I wonder what this one is about. It's called Thinking About Leaving Your Job. What Next? And it's by Peter Kelleher. Now, I read this book, funnily enough, when I was thinking about leaving my job. And actually, in a way, it was the reassurance that I needed at the time that if I did leave my job, it would be okay. And actually, I read that book cover to cover, section to section, and I loved the logical way in which it presented the case as to why you should, but then also the watch outs in terms of why you shouldn't. Now, the reason why this is important for me in the context of this episode is because I then went on to meet him. So I went to a conference that he was a speaker at, specifically because I wanted to speak to him, because I wanted to say to him, thank you so much. Your book was instrumental in facilitating me leaving my job. And that's the reason why I want to talk about that today, is because that's what books are for me. So it's not just the book, it's what sits behind it in terms of how can I apply the learning, or how can I seek out what else that book or that author or that business has to offer, which can help inspire me as a small business owner.
And it's such a, like books are probably like 10 to 20 quid. So it's such an accessible price as well.
Yeah. So moving on then to communities.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, sorry.
Before we move on, what's this one with a biscuit? I need to know.
Oh, yeah. So Nice is Not a Biscuit by Peter Mead. I love this book so much.
Biscuits.
I love
this.
I've got 3 copies. And I love it because it's totally written in my style. So it's got one saying, for example, careless talk costs lives. Fear is an abomination as a management tool, and then it goes on to explain it. And the reason it's called Nice is Not a Biscuit, and we've spoken about this before, in fact, pass it back to me, Vic, I just want to read this last section, is that it's all about how you can be nice in biscuit. I mean, it said in business.
You totally can be nice in business.
So we've talked about it before, about how some of the programs on the telly, portray successful business people to be a certain type.
Yeah.
And it can make you think, in order to be successful, I need to be a bit of a
cutthroat and horrible. Yeah.
So this is the final parting of this book. It says, you don't have to be a monster to succeed.
Oh.
And that's why I love it, because it's nice is not a biscuit. So what it's saying is you can be nice and still succeed. And I just really love the book. I've read it loads of times because it's just so easy to consume, as are the biscuits.
I might borrow that one as well and turn down the corners.
So, are we good to move on from books now?
Yeah. I think it's obvious we're big fans of books, and I think being able to have the audio book on in the car sometimes is great, but I think also having the book, for me, sometimes it's having both, so that I can almost see it twice and it sinks in a bit deeper. So talking about audiobooks, let's move on to podcasts. We were having a chat before, weren't we? And was talking about some of the podcasts that we've enjoyed in the past. One of them is The Freelancer's Tea Break by Emma Cossey. And the thing that I loved about this was they're really small bite-sized chunks. So they might be 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. But there's always like actionable things, really great hints and tips about being a freelancer specifically. But also that can help with the wider realms of business as well at times. So that's definitely one to check out. Another one that I'm a big fan of is Amy Porterfield. So she's got Online Marketing Made Easy. I think she's on something like episode 600 and something. Wow. We're on 18, so, we're on our way.
Yeah.
But she is renowned for being multi-million-pound turnover business, self-made, incredibly inspiring woman, based over in America, and just being able to listen to how she does things, how she makes decisions, what's working, what isn't. She's very honest about her marketing. These things are working, these things aren't, and how things change. How things changed in her business, how she rose to fame versus what she does now is very different. And going back to nice is not a biscuit, you really get that sense of she is a genuinely nice, lovely person. And I think when that comes across in a podcast, I think it's easier to feel like you can do business with these kind of people. And, I think she had a downloadable item only in the last couple of months. It was £37. I jumped on it straight away. I got the email. I thought, I'm paying over the £37. I need this in my life. And, it's things like her knowing that being able to have the podcast, drop the emails to, a massive audience and then monetize off the back of it. She's just a creative genius. And I feel very inspired by her. So that's podcasts. Do we want to move on to another podcast? One second and this is a recent one I've started listening to, Alex Hormozy's podcast, and he is building a billion pound doesn't make much difference really when you're making that much business, and so he's tracking how he's doing it, and definitely want to Google Alex Hormozy, Hormozi, and it's just again, nice is not a biscuit, is a normal down to earth guy. He wears like Crocs and socks. It's one of those things that you remember about people. And like you see him on stage. He's got his new book out. He's just one of those nice people that is really informative and just wants to give away loads of helpful content. Brilliant. So definitely one to look at. So you're going to talk about communities.
Yeah. So I'm when I first became a small business owner, I was amazed by the amount of resources that are available for small business owners, a lot of it for free. And I was really astounded by that. Whenever I see the word free, I always doubt the quality, but actually I've been blown away by the amount of support that's available. So I want to reference a few I do see them as communities rather than platforms, training providers, whatever you want to call them. So one is Enterprise Nation, who were the sponsors of our first series. Enterprise Nation are very, very clear about their target audience. So it is businesses in 0 to 3 years. So they are very clear about they want to get businesses at the early stages so that they can get them in, inspire them, educate them, teach them, add value to them, help them. Yeah. And I think it's an amazing community. Yeah. They do loads of, every day there's something online that you could watch or consume.
Yeah, the Lunch and Learns are brilliant.
Yeah, Lunch and Learns, I've done a couple of those. I know your team's done one of those. They had their startup conference early in January that I went to. Yeah. Amazing. And everything is free. And if it's not free, it's very, very low cost. So I would encourage everyone to seek out Enterprise Nation.
Yeah. And to sign up's free. It's free to register, isn't it? And then you can access the Lunch and Learns, get the weekly email with what's coming up.
Yeah, but also, and this is a message running through communities, you get out of it what you put in. So be clear about how you want to use that community to inspire you, educate you, enable you to grow as a business and as a business owner. So you need to put the work in to find the right resources and then make full use of those resources that are available to you. The second community is Small Business Britain, which is linked to obviously Small Business Saturday, which is, oh my gosh, I cannot tell you how much I love that community. They are such a great bunch. They really are.
Is this the one that's early December? There's a big Small Business Britain bus and everything that tours around. Is this the very same one? The
Small Business Saturday is the Saturday after Black Friday. So it's like the opposite. It's the showcase of the small businesses.
Yeah.
And in the run up to that Small Business Saturday, for 100 days, they have a profile of one of 100 small businesses.
Yeah, that's nice.
So I was lucky enough to be one of them. So my business is a Small Biz 100, as they call them.
Okay.
And as part of that, they have a tour. And again, there's loads of online webinars. You can access free mentoring. They go around the country doing live events. You, as a small business owner, can be interviewed live. That gets broadcast across their social media channels. And they've got, massive, massive following. So Small Business Britain, Small Business Saturday, go and check them out. They've also got awards, which you absolutely have got every opportunity and every chance of winning if you put yourself forward. So do that. And then the third community that I just want to talk about, and it is off the back of a printed publication. So Freelancer magazine is something that I came across because one of my LinkedIn connections shared a photo on her LinkedIn feed. Oh, I'm so excited. I've got the latest edition of my Freelancer magazine and I really like the look of it. And I thought, oh, I don't know a bit about that. So I subscribed straight away. I think it's £12. It's a quarterly magazine. Yep. I think it is £12 a quarter. And I got my first copy. And oh my gosh, I literally devoured that magazine.
It's lovely and tactile as well, but it's the content.
It's colourful, it's inspiring, it's positive, it's upbeat, it's engaging, it's relevant, it's funny, it gives you all the feels basically.
Great design as well.
Absolutely fantastic design.
Really
but the brilliant thing about this is that it's not just a magazine. The magazine is like the hero, but actually what they've created off the back of that magazine is a really fantastic community. Yes. Yeah. So every week they do co-working sessions, they have a Christmas party, they have a group on LinkedIn. So they are a great group of people, and because they are mostly creatives, there is a really great energy about it as well. So it's colourful, it's all the great things. So Freelancer magazine is a magazine in printed form which lands through your letterbox, but off the back of that magazine they have really grown a brilliant community as well.
And to add to that, so when we think about Nice is Not a Biscuit, the founder and editor of Freelancer magazine is Sophie Cross, and I met her, I think it might have been either just before or during COVID, and we struck up a conversation. We got a very similar background, and we just really got on. And then she said, oh, I'm going to launch this magazine, and she just did. And the whole community and the vibe, even talking to the team here, production team, like they were looking at this, like poring over the pages, like this looks amazing. And I think that is the general feeling that Sophie's created. She's, when we talk about today, we're talking about resources to upskill and inspire. I think Freelancer magazine ticks both boxes really well.
There's very few magazines or very few publications that I get and I consume it from cover to cover. Yeah. That I do not skip any
Question
section.
For you. Do you read it front to back or back to front?
I bit of both.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Do you meet in the middle?
But also, I mean, on the back page, there is always a feature from a lady called Jo Watson. We were all thinking it, and it's so funny. It's a bit sweary, but that's fine. It's in context, but it's really funny. And she does
Is that the first place you go to when it lands on the doorstep?
It does challenge your thinking because it's a bit like, oh yes, we were all thinking it, but we daren't say it. But she totally goes there. So,
brilliant.
I love the magazine for what it is, but I love it even more because I know the people, the inspiration, the passion and the enthusiasm that goes behind it.
It has its own energy.
Yeah, totally.
So are there any other events? We were talking about communities. I've got events down here, but I guess that kind of covers the both. Well, I guess there is Atomicon. We went to Atomicon last year, didn't we?
That's
up in
Newcastle. So that's coming up in June, and I think as well that's about community and also about you get out of it what you put in. So talking about events, if you're going to an event, don't be shy. Don't just rock up at the event and if you're at an event, use your social media to announce the fact that you're going to an event. Engage with your followers and get them to seek you out. You know, let's meet for coffee, come and say hi. You know, events like in real life are the opportunity for you to really take your online connections to the next level.
And last time we wore our Scale Up Your Sales and Marketing podcast t-shirts. We had a QR code on the back. People were scanning us, following us on Instagram. So we even generated followers that way as well, didn't we? And also people kind of seeing the brand, and because it was very early days for us then. But
pick the ones that you like the look of. They don't all have to be about generating new business. They could just be a great big social opportunity to connect with people that you want to connect with socially, that you just want to. And in fact, I think that's why I loved Atomicon, because I did have an agenda, as you would expect, because I didn't want to miss anything. But I just thought, I'm just going to have a good time, actually. I know you were going to be there. You know, I was staying away from home, which is always a bit of a treat. And I just thought, this is actually not about business. It's just about, you know, investing in me and having a good time.
Yeah, and I think those connections, that there was a big group of us going from the Midlands, wasn't there? So I think it's investing in that kind of group of people and spending time with them as well, so they get to know what our updates are, we get to hear what their updates are, so then we can spread the word about each other.
In terms of, you know, building your resources, you know, in-person events are a massive part of that. And again, you know, plan ahead. So what I do now is I plan my monthly sort of schedule in terms of which events I'm going to.
I love how organised you are.
And I share that on my socials, because
I did see that this week. You were like, this month Leisa Pickles is going to be at and I was like, that is such a good idea.
But I'm going to a really big food expo, and it's massive, and I know that I'll miss stuff. I've already got coffee booked in at 11 with Jane, lunch booked in at 12:30, you know, because I want these people that I've been chatting with, you know, on LinkedIn mostly for like the best part of 3 years. I want to meet them. So I can't wait. Idea. So it's like, yes, I'm there. I'm not just there to wander around. I'm there because I want to meet these people. So again, back to communities, etc., etc. So Vic, tell me about the Lego.
Well, I'm looking at the Lego and I'm thinking about this episode. This episode is all about resources to upskill and inspire. Now, so I'm just going to give you a little taster, because I think maybe we need to cover this in a separate episode. Basically, the Lego is here today, and there's a book down here called the LSP Method. It's all about Lego serious play. This is something that I do with clients, where I take the senior leadership team into a boardroom and we use Lego. Usually I get a few looks to start with, like, what? I am not 5. And we use Lego to build mission, vision, values, or we talk about what that future vision is of the business, or we talk about like problem solving. We can build marketing plans, and really it's a communication tool so that people can have their voice in the room and also put all their ideas together to then work out what is that plan going to be moving forward. So I think we need to touch on this in another one. I think I can only just, in terms of resources to upskill and inspire, this is definitely on the list, but I think it's something we can definitely delve into at another point.
I can't wait. And I suppose it's just about approaching, providing a solution to an opportunity, a problem, a challenge, whatever that looks like, using a different type of resource.
Yeah, and usually what it does is it will take the onus off this being my idea and it becoming an idea that is in front of me. So if somebody goes, well, yeah, I like that thing about it, but not so much that thing, it's almost like I don't need to take it personally, because now the idea is attached to a thing, not myself. And so that's why
built to sell.
which oh yeah, the built to sell one.
It's not all about you.
It isn't. This is the thing, and it's about. I think the biggest thing is Lego can help with team building, and it can help with the communication of the team to move the business forward in a really playful and constructive way that puts everybody's voice on the table.
And I suppose as well, and I don't know anything about this, so I could be barking up completely the wrong tree. It puts everyone at the same level.
It does.
So nobody's got more knowledge than another person. Everyone gets delivered a pile of Lego, and set the same task. It's just about different approach.
Well, I usually start with giving everybody a minifigure, and that's what they need to make first. They make their minifigure, and then at the end of the session, they get to keep that and keep it on their desk to remind them of what we've talked about here.
Oh.
And so, I just love Lego. I've been doing a lot of research into it. I've done some sessions with senior leadership teams, and I know that it's something that I feel passionate about and that makes a difference to their business.
Just don't ever stand on a piece, because that really hurts.
I know. We're going to have to tidy up well after this.
So on the subject of resources, there is loads out there. You've got to be clear on your objective. So what are you looking for? And then find a route to get there, whether that be through a book, whether that be through a community, an event, a podcast. But also remember that it's not all about business stuff. You know, you can just consume this content and access these resources just because you want to, and because it's inspiring. It makes you think differently. It doesn't always have to lead to an implementation or an improvement or a rollout of a new product within your business. This is about upskilling and inspiring you as a business owner, which will then enable you to upskill and engage and inspire your team and your customers and clients.
Love it. So yeah, we'd love to hear your feedback as always. You can follow us on Scale Up Podcast on Instagram. Get in touch on there, and we'll see you in the next episode.